All right, let me put my lipstick on and I'll be right back because this was.
Oh, lonely.
You are not.
You don't watch your own show, do you?
No. Are you talking to me?
The whole time. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
I love seeing your face and everything about you. I've missed you terribly.
I miss you too, honey. I think about you a lot, and I always smile.
Oh,
I
no.
wish I could just sit down and just have a raging conversation about politics.
Oh God. Well, we can infuse some of that in here, and people can just tune it out.
I know you don't want to go too far.
Well, oh no, we'll get there. I love your apartment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do too. Just to tell you, Claudio's a huge fan of yours.
He is?
Not PH necessarily, because they don't get it over here. He's only seen clips of you.
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
Ah, Santa Barbara.
I must say, you people must have like tapped into the main artery there with Santa Barbara, because it's whenever anybody over here knows that I was in an American soap, first thing they say is Santa Barbara, and I don't just mean Holland, I mean Europe. So
Yeah.
congrats on that.
It's pretty insane because I'm truthfully much more known in the countries that it was in 145 countries, and it's so popular in Europe. In India, it was number one. In Russia, it was number one. So I'm actually probably known more around the world than I am here.
Like the Beatles.
I'm like the Beatles, right? You know, wow. I don't need bodyguards here, but I need them when I travel, strangely enough.
Well, in my life, you're bigger than Jesus. Let's put it that way.
And speaking of people who needed bodyguards, back in, when, you were on the cover of Time magazine, you are known everywhere.
Yes.
And so what was that like for you?
It was intimidating. It was terrifying. It was too much too soon. It was all the things you hear, it was, and you balance that with, wow, my ego was really stroked. But I always had such a division between me and Luke Spencer that when I saw that Time magazine cover, that wasn't, I had trouble, identifying that was me. It was somebody I knew, and it was a really cheesy photo that I, would have stopped and looked at because, but I didn't really identify with it as me. I never did, actually.
After the magazine and everything that came after it, do you look back now at the point in life you are now and go, oh, I could have done this differently? Or do you go, no, I should have done it. I'm where I am now because I handled things exactly the way I handled it.
No, I think I'm really lucky to be where I am now, based on the way I handled it. I don't think I handled it very well at all.
No.
And, I was not savvy. I was naive. I mean, I was 30-something years old, and I'd been a professional actor since I was 18, but it was just a whole different world that I could not kind of wrap my head around. And the attention was way more than I bargained for. So I do wish I could have, if I could redo it, I would do a lot of things different.
Like what?
Go to New York. Leave LA as soon as possible. No, I would have gone to New York. If I had to do it again, I would have done a year or 2 years maybe. As soon as it got big, I would have gone to New York and tried to parlay that immediate Time magazine attention into something else. But I was having a great time. Gloria Monty treated me like a prince. And I loved working with Jeannie. In those days, it was all exciting and the scripts were good. And it was, I wasn't really thinking about the future at all. I was just thinking about what am I going to say tomorrow?
Because you actually were enjoying what you do. I was explaining this to someone because someone said, was doing a soap your first choice? And I said, I never thought about it. I watched you. So I was watching you when everybody else was watching you. And I loved watching soaps. As an actor, once I became an actor, I didn't necessarily I didn't think this was an area that I would have chosen first. But then Santa Barbara called and invited me to be on their show. And because Patrick Mulcahy he wrote this, and the Dobsons, they were so creative, and the directors would come without any shots in their scripts, and they go, what do you want to do today? And we were there 16 hours a day, and we rehearsed, and we created, and everybody was trying to, it was like rep theater. So I said I'd stay for a year and a half, and I thought that's it, because I was actually working in prime time at the time, and I thought, oh, it's a steady paycheck, I'll be cool, right?
Yeah.
I ended up staying 10 years because I actually was being fulfilled. It was a creative, wonderful rep company. Things are different now because now it's more of a factory. It's a train that runs, and I'm so grateful to be able to still have my job. But nonetheless, we don't have time for that creativity. So I ask you, that was a long way to ask the question to you. Would being on a soap have been a first, or second, or third choice for you?
Fifth, sixth, or seventh. Actually, it was the third soap I had done. I came on GH in 78. I was first on something called Bright Promise on NBC in 1970. And Susan Brown played my foster mother, and lovely David Lewis was was her father. So I got introduced to it in a really high style. And Jeffries was my mother, and I had never done soaps. I'd done a bit of TV, but mostly it was stage work, and it was very exciting because we were doing it in those days live. They counted you in, and you went, and that's sort of where I learned to improvise, because you don't, you've done live stuff. Susan Brown once said, Dabney Coleman was her boyfriend, a doctor, and he came into the house. I lived in the house with them, and they had a good night scene there by the door. It was the door and the closet, and they kissed, and they were really into the scene, and he turned and walked into the closet and closed the door and didn't come out. And Susan did the most wonderful thing. She looked at the closet, and she looked at the door, and she went on with her business. Like, oh, that's just what a goofy guy. And she just went on with the scene. Anyway, that was great fun. So I had done that. Then I did 6 months, I think it was, on Young and the Restless.
I didn't know that.
It was a stretch.
You played a rapist on Minor?
Yeah, it was a stretch.
But then you did it again on General Hospital. What's up with that?
I did it everywhere. I was like your go-to rapist guy for about 5 years. I raped people on Cagney and Lacey, and I mean, I could just go through it with you, but it's really quite amazing that you know me very well. I'm a mild-mannered sort of guy.
You are the furthest thing from what I think a rapist might be, but what do I know?
That's acting.
That's acting. Right. So speaking of rape, you've changed what characters on soaps look like. You did that. You single-handedly did that from the very typical, stereotypical soap hero leading man. You changed what a leading man looks like. You changed what a leading man acts like, what love stories look like. So your love story with Jeannie was iconic with the character of Laura. And it originated from the fallout of date rape. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting that you frame it, that you contextualize it like that. The thing that always troubled me about those scenes was that I played it as rape, that I was directed it as rape. Gloria directed it. Gloria Monty, the genius that I think changed TV soaps forever, or not forever, certainly for until today. We're still using her playbook, I think. So it was a rape. It was a rape. It was, and the only thing that made some people start talking about it, maybe it was a seduction. It was, which has always bothered me, and I'm sure it bothers Jeannie. I think that she was she. Because we never intended that. We played it straight on rape. And then what happened is, because Luke had a very soft heart at the center of this macaroon, somehow the audience identified with the pain of his action almost equally to the pain of the victim. And they suddenly started talking about it as a seduction. And they started using those words in the scripts. And they tried to rewrite the history of what we all knew was a violent rape. I don't care why he was upset. I don't care how much he loved her. I don't care how she responded. It was fucking rape. And that really, that was sort of, when that happened, after the, we got great response from that, obviously, and from the audience and everything else. The whole next sequence of my experience with General Hospital was trying to reconcile an audience that wanted it to have been seduction and the reality that it was rape, and me wanting to say, it's rape, it's rape, it's rape. I did a personal appearance in Chicago right after, maybe 6 months after that, where I opened a mall.
Did you come down the escalator? Like in Soap Dish?
Exactly. It's time to go to the mall. And when I came on stage, there were thousands of people in this place, and they started chanting, "Luke raped me, Luke raped me,
Oh,
raped me," and it still disturbs me because it was all a joke, or people thought it was amusing, or that I would respond. I was very upset, and I stopped and I said, please stop that. I'm happy to be here, but I can't deal with that, because rape is a violent act against people that have not signed up, and,
no consent.
it's not funny, and it's not pleasing to me, and I wish you would stop. And they did, because soap fans are a gentle lot for the most part.
You know that you were my favorite scene partner to ever work with, in ever, really, because you had this perfect combination of actor smarts, and you understand, you get that no matter what the circumstance, you bring humor to it, and you just are irreverent. and you bring this irreverence into your work, which is how the game is played, in my opinion. And you are my fellow rebel, right? And I always knew that I could get away with things with you because I'd stand behind you, because no one is ever going to fire Luke, right? So it really sort of gave me, now I have to act out all by myself. And I have to tell you, that's not nearly as much fun. So can you come back?
Okay. You talked me into it. Yeah, thank you, first of all.
I mean it.
And the feelings are mutual. I love work. I've always loved working with you. I've loved watching you work. We don't need to, I mean, I don't want this to seem like you gave me this great stroke and I'm giving it back, but I was going to tell you anyway, since I haven't seen you in 4 years or more, that I adore you as an actress as well as a person. But as an actress, I will always stop. Always when Nini G is on the screen. And I know how you work, and you do work very similarly to me, that you get the idea of what the scene is about, you know exactly what you're supposed to say and what is stupid to say, and you finesse the stupid and you invest in the supposed to. And to me, that's the height of the art.
I learned from the master. I learned from watching you and Judith Light.
Oh, bless.
I did. So,
Bless.
yeah.
How much,
so
between the two of you, because you guys work together a lot, how much did you guys get to collaborate more than what was on the page? Did you guys get to change stuff, improvise, or is that just all in the writing?
We did a lot of improvisation. More than I don't really think. I never ad-lib. I've never ad-lib. Improv is different than ad-libbing. People get them mixed up. I always tried to rewrite what I could, that I could not say. If I just couldn't get it out or believe in it, I would, and Nancy knows this, I would come to the party with a script that was written, and then we could improvise from that. And I always was comfortable with Nan because she came to the party the same way, whether she wrote it out or whether it was completely improvisational on her end, I don't know. But I felt obliged to refashion scenes where I could not find my character. If the character wasn't on the page, it was my job to provide the page with the character. And if that meant changing some things, I don't think we ever changed intention necessarily, but we always managed to get there motivated somehow by character. You know your character, and you can live your character beyond the words, beyond the direction. And I don't even sometimes know if you know you're doing it because it's just so instinctual. I have marveled in your ability to come into a rehearsal and supposedly not know a line. And we still laugh. And by air, not only did you know the line, you knew the lines that worked, you knew the lines that didn't work. And you knew with me, if they didn't work, you could say something else. And that's the way I felt with you too, safe.
That's really what it was. So we're just to be clear, but I don't have carte blanche to rewrite things. We can go and ask for help. Many of us have very good guidance systems as to our character because that's all we have to focus on, where the writers have to focus on a gazillion characters, the sets, the guarantees, all of these things. It's almost an impossible job. So, but there is a group effort that's kind of needed to keep this train on the track. Now, back in the day when I was on Santa Barbara and when in the heyday of General Hospital, everybody was working this way. This was what we learned. This was how you worked. Everyone, can we fix this? Can we change that? How about what? I think you made a mistake here. Oh, that's great. Let's do that. There was that going on. It can't be that way anymore because we have limited budget and we are shooting 8 shows a week. Before we were working 16, 17 hours. We had time to play. Now we don't. So it's a different ballgame. Back in the day, Gloria allowed that creativity. I know she did.
Yes. And not just to me.
No.
I may have run with it a little further than some, but she allowed all the actors, particularly the ones she hired and felt comfortable with, and she would come to you. We would do a rehearsal, and then there would be time for lunch, and then we would do the show. And during the lunch, if she liked what you were doing, what you brought to the rehearsal, and she knew you were still going to be working through it, she didn't say a word. But if she didn't like it, then she would take you to task. But that's how I learned to do it. That's how I learned. And
we all did.
Yeah.
So then when the game changed and we started working at the speed of light, and, which is what we had to do to keep the soaps going.
Right.
Where there was more of a leash on our freedom, which I also understand.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating when you come out of the environment of being able to contribute without upsetting people, to then have the game change, and so we all make adjustments. Did you, again, because you are who you are, did you have it in your contract that you could rewrite?
No, I did not have it in my contract. Gloria gave me that power. She had worked with me before. She was a woman of the theater, not of marketing, not of TV, the theater. And she knew that rehearsal was everything. So when she rehearsed and she saw the way I worked, she would say, "This scene isn't quite working. Here's what you need to say. Here's what you need to say. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to do." Let's just kind of, and I actually won an Emmy for a show that Jeannie and I completely improvised or reworded.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we didn't sit down together and do it. She fixed her part, I fixed my part, and Gloria shot it. And I remember I was standing in a doorway to her apartment, and she had opened the door, and the scene went on and on and on. But she never stopped it because it was compelling. And
if it works, it works.
It works better than anything. Now, I have always had a contentious relationship with soap writers. Let's just put that on the table. It wasn't that I intended to. They all, I've worked with a lot of them, and I admired and respected most of them. But it was contentious when my work ethic clashed with their needs. There's a very political way to say it.
Okay.
And I felt that Luke Spencer was an iconic character. And Gloria told me this before she left. You are going to have to protect this character because nobody gets it. And they're going to pull you toward, natural leading man stuff as you get older. And it's going to be difficult. You have to hold on to this core, this unusual man, or it won't last. She was absolutely right. And I had some Dragout knockdowns with many people, most of them writers, because
I watched you insist that they didn't normalize you.
Yes.
And I watched in utter admiration for you and that, because A, I thought, good for you, and B, I thought, that's great that he can do that and get away with that.
I got away with it 90% of the time. The 10% I didn't was bloody. And when I came back to the show in 92, I think it was, after I'd been away for 8 years, I knew I would probably never have a career beyond GH. It was a choice I made so that I could have a life beyond GH. Mm. And I became very much interested in getting as much as I could as quickly as possible, because I knew I was not going to hang out in LA until I was 80 years old trying to get a job. Yeah. So that was it was all pre-done. There was a point that I could not allow it to go on. I had my breaking point, and that always had to do with when they were trying to normalize the character, or to give me, to be a great dad or a great husband, or things that I would have never taken the job if I knew this is right. Where it was going. So the battle was, I was pretty arrogant about it. I really was. I didn't mind being that actor when it meant that I was protecting a character that I had given my fucking life to, Yeah. I delayed my life, the one I'm living now, so I could get through that. And it was not a good time for me.
I love the medium because of what it's provided me. And I have to say this politically, because I do want to still stay employed, but because I still love what I do. I still really enjoy what I do, but I have had to fight a good portion of fight for, it's hard to explain our allegiance to our characters and without insulting anybody else, because it's not like they don't have an allegiance to characters either, the people that are trying to make this show work. And there's so many other things to think about, but it's almost like a child, that you feel this intense need to protect. It's instinctual. And I don't know if that comes out of our training as an actor. I think that is a lot of it. I think those of us, having a lot of training as an actor is not a prerequisite for getting jobs these days at all. And so the more training you have, the more tenacious you are in trying to be truthful in imaginary circumstances and the consistency of it. But
can I interject as a viewer?
Yeah.
Because there's a bridge that seems to happen between you guys as the actors who have played these. Tony, you played Luke since before Jesus could walk. You guys built these characters, and then on the other side of the bridge, there's the viewers who have also been with these characters since the beginning. So we know how they tick. You know how they tick. And what seems to get lost in the middle is the turnover in staff and writers who it's a job. There's no investment in what the character was before. It's like, how can I make, I'm new to the show. Let's make Luke a really good dad.
Yeah.
Let's see where that goes.
Sure. So, that's understandable for their point of view.
Yeah. But and then that's when the viewers get angry. That we know the characters as much as you guys know the characters.
Yeah.
And you can't fuck with that. Like you can't mess with that.
Well, I honestly, because I've been watching this team, writers and producers and everyone in the past 5 years, where the amount of stuff that we have to get done in this short amount of time is almost, it's inconceivable in a way. So I will defend them in the very much so in telling you that I've talked to them and witnessed them in this new way that we work. And they do care as much as you say you care, or as much as Tony and I say we care. They care just as much. It's just hard to make this work in a way where everyone's needs are getting met. And I think you make a really good point, because I think, Tony, you'll agree with this, is that we are so tenacious about protecting the integrity and the truthfulness of our character every day in these imaginary circumstances. But also, I think you and I have a real sense of the audience, and not wanting to disappoint them, and feeling that they value them to the point where they deserve the continuity and the consistency and the truthfulness.
Yeah, I feel they depend on us. And if the continuity is off and the truthfulness is off, the first person they're going to go, what is you? Because you're on the screen. They may not get that you've been given a piece of material that doesn't help. Now, I know people work hard. The writers work hard. My problem has always been the inconsistency. That I've always felt like when a new writer came in, it was my job to school them or educate them in who the character was, and that I didn't see that as a battleground. I saw it as coming together for the betterment of the show. If some writers did not agree that I am an arrogant ass for insisting that he has a history and that we shouldn't defile it.
Right. There is an open-mindedness with this team, that if you have a problem, if you have something that needs to be addressed, that we do have an open door policy, and that you can go up there as long as you go ahead of time. Because the problem is, when we used to be able to just sort of work during the day through the hours and sort of change things as it went, you can't do that. There's no time for that. But there is an open-mindedness. They don't have a problem with you defending your character and with you asking for things or saying, how about we do this? How about we do that? It's just, from now, it's time. You got to get ahead of it. And if you don't, then you just get on it and do it the way you didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I have a complete sympathy for them. I know as well as anyone what the stress of pouring out a show every day, or in your case now, like 5 shows a day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane. And it's not about the actors. It's about the team. But when the actor is not included in the team, I have a problem.
I get it. I totally get it. And because we are in this medium, which is so unique, I really believe put the best minds in the room. Have the think tank, which includes the writer, which includes the producer, which includes the actor, everyone, just throw yourself in there and come up with the most creative, truthful thing you can.
I think
That'd be ideal.
I think it's insane when they change writing teams that they don't take a week bringing every major franchise character in, and having half a day's conversation.
They used to do that.
They did. Yes, they did. They used to do it.
I think that's the tricky part too, is there's, the teams change more than the actors. I mean, lucky for us that we've got, I've been doing this for 34 years. How can I be my age and still have a job, a regular job? I'm so freaking lucky.
Darling. It's called talent.
Well, it's also that what other medium lasts this long too, and if you get to, and part of the way of surviving this long, and again, I learned this from watching you, is that you can't just lay down and do whatever without, you got to squeak a bit.
Week, not if you want to be there next week, next month.
Yeah.
You have to honor a character that the audience has has embraced by not fucking with the history that they know. And that's a big problem that happened a lot in the last, I don't know how many years from me on the show. The history was not as important as what we want to do. And that's just not right.
Well, I think when you know, in the olden days,
Yeah.
we began that soaps were written from character point of view. And now, because of all the myriad reasons we've talked about, it's now about the plot pushing and writing for plots and putting the characters inside the plot has become more of a way of working. For me, I love when you take the character and think what would be interesting for the character to do, and then the plot comes from that. That to me is ideal. There's not time and money for that anymore.
Well, we could argue that another time.
Well, so it seems. So I've been told.
But so you've been told. There we go.
So Tony, I don't think
Yes.
it's any secret that you enjoy weed, right? Which is why you enjoy a little
weed.
Yeah. Which is that why you moved to Amsterdam? Because you can come back now.
No. Well, it may have influenced me. It may have pushed me over the edge. The fact that it was completely, more than just the weed. I love the Dutch because there are absolutely no lifestyle choices that are illegal. You can choose to be whatever. You can be a heroin addict. They won't lock you up. They'll take you to treatment. And I've had some over here across the canal recently who I saw the police come and talk to, most graciously, I must say, and ended up taking them off to treatment. But there's no incarceration. There's no public shaming. The Dutch are very forgiving. It suits my style really well. And I'm not just talking about drugs. I'm talking about prostitution. I'm talking about lifestyle choices of all kinds. I know transgenders who I adore, who are pinnacles of society. I know gay, straight, bi, leather queens, drag queens. It's just humanity here, and humanity without judgment. And that is, to me, civilization at its highest.
What's that like?
I know. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Really.
When did you decide you wanted to live there?
Okay, when I went back to I left General Hospital for 8 years after the Luke and Laura sensation. When I went back there in 92 or 3, I made a deal with myself, as I think I said earlier, that this was going to be it in terms of my acting career, apart from, say, stage work or something. But I was not looking forward to a great film career or anything like that. I'd given all that up. I went back in order to have a life. And in so doing, I made a deal with myself that I would find a second home. So I had a home in LA. Second home that I could go to where nobody knew me, where I could recover anonymity, where I could basically just kind of disappear. I spent most of the 70s and 80s laying on beaches in the Caribbean and South America and got a lot of sun damage. So I realized, okay, I got, this particular edition is designed for the northern climes. So I decided to come over here, not to Amsterdam, but to Europe, and look for I went to Iceland, I went to Norway, I went to Denmark, I went to Germany, I went to Italy, I went to France. And I was really just sort of, and I noticed every time I flew into Europe, I would fly into Amsterdam, stay a couple of nights, then go off where I was going and come back through Amsterdam. And after about maybe a year of doing this, after I was back on the show, whenever I'd get time off, I would jump over and start looking into places. I realized, wait a minute, Amsterdam, I love it here. Why am I looking anywhere else? So I started looking here. I love it because I've never felt as comfortable in a place in my life. I grew up in a small town in Utah, a Mormon community, very repressive, very 1930s. It was the 50s and 60s, but it was not exactly progressive. And when I came to this town, and I realized that there were no judgments on people for who they were, what they did, what they were interested in, what appealed to them, what turned them on. I went, wait, what's better than this? So I started really looking around this town, and she's a beautiful, beautiful city. And so I really knew from I started back on GH, I think in 92. By 93, I knew I wanted to live in Amsterdam. And I signed up with a real estate agency in LA that had places to look here. And I just started coming over here every time I had a week off and looking. And I found this fabulous apartment in an old building built in 1879. As a bank, and it is the newest building on the block. I have a 1675 building beside me here, and I have a 1648 building on the other side of me. God. And they are national monuments. You can't change the exterior of these places. You can only change the interior. And I found this place, and I'd never looked back. This year, in the end of February, I was finally granted citizenship of the EU and full-time residency of Holland.
Wow. Congratulations.
So, thank you. I worked hard for it. It took me, I've been working at that since 94, and it came this year. I am an immigrant.
I'm so jealous.
And
I guess you can't come here then.
What?
Guess you can't come back now.
No, can't come back. No, so, I could, but I have no desire.
Well, now, so that leads to my next question.
Yes.
What do you think, looking at America from your perspective right now?
From the outside.
I am sad. I am very, very sad. I'm an American. I'm very proud that I'm a resident of Holland and a citizen of the EU, but I carry an American passport, and I am at heart an American. And I love my country, and I am brokenhearted at what has gone on over the last 3 years. More than that, really, but the last 3 years have just been intolerable.
How do people in Amsterdam, in Holland,
yes,
how do they view Americans now?
They love Americans. Americans have never been the problem for the Dutch, or I think any Europeans. You know, when I first came here, they were trying to impeach President Clinton over a blowjob. And I so loved that the Prime Minister of Holland was asked about it at the time. This is in the 90s, we're in the impeachment phase. And he said, America is a wonderful country and Americans are great people and we adore them. but I do not understand them at all. If I closed the government every time one of my ministers or high politicians came out of the red light district, we would never get anything done. And I said, I want to live here.
I totally get it.
I'm in my 10th week of lockdown here. Can you tell? I haven't had air conditioning.
I think you look hot and sexy and beautiful and wonderful.
I'll send you a ticket right away. Yeah, I'm sort of between Dennis the Menace and somebody.
There's so much product in here that if there weren't, I look like Shaka Khan and like Juice Newton.
You said Nanette Fabre.
Yeah, I said Nanette Fabre, but I knew nobody would get that reference.
No, I was going to give you the reference of Cloris Leachman. I said, I was going to say I look like different cross between Dennis the Menace and Cloris Leachman. I figured way over your head.
No. So, Tony, thank you for doing this. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I'd be happy to do it again.
Oh, and I will be calling you tomorrow. Are you available?
Yeah, I'm just here, I'm just here.
Let's face it, none of us are busy.
That's right. And it's so nice to talk to you.
Tony, I can't even tell you what a privilege and a joy it was. Thank you so much.
Me too.
I love you.